I spent 2 years working 70-hour weeks on the biggest project of my career. When that bonus check finally arrived, $45,000 after taxes, I thought my life was about to change. I could pay off my student loans, buy a decent car, maybe even start saving for a house. But then my dad called to congratulate me before I had told anyone in my family. His voice was too cheerful, too knowing. How did he know? Before I tell you how my own family violated my privacy and spent my hard-earned money, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. And if you have ever dealt with family crossing boundaries, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story gets wild. Now, let me show you what happens when trust becomes theft. My name is Isaac, and I work as a software engineer at a tech company in Seattle. Nothing fancy, just a decent job that pays the bills and then some. I live in a one-bedroom apartment that costs way too much, but that is Seattle for you. My car is a 2008 Honda Civic that makes weird noises every time I turn left. I still owe $38,000 in student loans from a degree that took me 6 years to finish because I worked full-time while going to school. For the past 2 years, I have been part of a team developing an artificial intelligence system for medical diagnostics. It was grueling work. 60 to 70 hours every single week. Weekends disappeared. I missed birthdays, holidays, even my college roommate's wedding. My social life became non-existent, but I kept telling myself it would be worth it. Our project leader, Trenton, kept saying the company would take care of us when we delivered. My family lives in Portland, about a 3-hour drive south. My dad, Walter, used to be a plumber before he retired last year. My mom, Diane, works as a nurse at a local hospital. Then there is my younger brother, Garrett, who is 25, and has been living at home for the past year after losing his job at a warehouse. My sister, Allison, is 23, and still in college, also living at home to save money. I do not visit often. Maybe once every 2 months if I can spare the time. We talk on the phone occasionally, but we are not the kind of family that shares everything. They know I work in tech and make decent money, but I never discussed my salary or my finances with them. Money has always been a touchy subject in our house growing up. Dad worked hard but never made much. Mom's nursing income kept us afloat. We were not poor, but we were not comfortable either. Friday morning started like any other day. I got to the office at 7:30, grabbed coffee from the break room, and sat down at my desk. Around 9, our HR representative Sandra walked over with a large envelope. She smiled in that way people do when they know something good is about to happen. I opened the envelope right there at my desk. Inside was a letter on company letterhead congratulating me on the successful completion of the AI project. And paper clipped to it was a check. $45,000. After taxes. I stared at it for what felt like 5 minutes straight. My hands actually started shaking. Trenton called me into his office an hour later. He shook my hand, told me I deserved every penny, and that the company appreciated my dedication. He said the AI system we built was already being tested in 3 major hospitals, and the feedback was incredible. For the first time in 2 years, I felt like the sacrifice had actually meant something. My coworker Kyle took me out to lunch to celebrate. We went to this burger place we always talk about but never actually go to because it is too expensive. Over a $20 burger, I told him my plan. Pay off the student loans completely. Buy a reliable car, nothing fancy, just something that would not break down every other month. And put whatever was left into savings. Maybe eventually save up for a down payment on a small condo. Kyle listened and nodded. Then he said something I should have paid more attention to. He said, "Do not tell your family about this money unless you want them asking for some of it." I laughed it off. I told him my family was not like that, but deep down, I knew he had a point. so I decided to keep quiet about the bonus. Just for a while. Just until I had everything figured out. That evening, I got home around 7. I made dinner, watched some television, and felt genuinely happy for the first time in months. Around 8:30, my phone rang. It was my dad. The conversation started normal enough. He asked how work was going. I said, "Fine, busy as usual." Then he said something that made my stomach drop. He said, "Congratulations on your big win, son." I need you to understand I had not told anyone in my family about the bonus. Not a single person. So I asked him what he was talking about. He laughed, that kind of laugh people do when they think you are playing dumb. He said, "Your bonus, $45,000, that is incredible." I felt my face go cold. I asked him directly, "How do you know about that?" He got vague, real quick. Said something about word getting around. Then he changed the subject before I could push further. He started talking about Garrett, about how my brother was still looking for work, how tough the job market was. Then he mentioned that money was tight, that retirement was not as comfortable as he had hoped. The whole time he was talking, I was barely listening. My mind was racing. How did he know I had not told anyone except Kyle? The company would not have called my parents. So, how the conversation ended with him saying he was proud of me and that we should talk soon. I sat on my couch for an hour after that call, just staring at the wall. Something was very wrong, but I could not figure out what. Saturday morning, I woke up still feeling uneasy about my dad's phone call. I could not shake the feeling that something was off. Around 10 in the morning, I decided to drive down to Portland. I did not call ahead, I just got in my car and started driving. The drive gave me time to think. How could my dad have known about the bonus? The only paper trail was the letter from HR and the check, both of which were in my apartment. Unless someone at the company had told him, but that made no sense. We had no mutual connections there. The more I thought about it, the less sense it made. I pulled into my parents' driveway around 1 in the afternoon. Their house is a small ranch-style place in a quiet neighborhood. The lawn needed mowing. Dad's old truck was parked on the street. Everything looked normal from the outside. I walked in through the front door without knocking. I grew up in this house. I still had my key. What I saw when I walked into the living room stopped me in my tracks. My entire family was gathered around the coffee table. Spread out in front of them were glossy brochures for cruise ships, Alaska cruises specifically. My mom was holding one up, pointing at pictures of glaciers and whales. Garrett was leaning back on the couch with his feet up, grinning. Allison was looking at her phone, probably checking cruise reviews. My mom saw me first. Her face lit up. She said, "Isaac, perfect timing, we are going on a cruise to Alaska." She said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. Like they took expensive vacations all the time. Garrett sat up and added that it was 2 weeks all-inclusive with fancy restaurants and everything. He looked more excited than I had seen him in years. Allison glanced up from her phone and said she had never been on a cruise before. I stood there trying to process what I was seeing. My parents, who had always been careful with money, who clipped coupons and bought store-brand everything, were planning a cruise that had to cost thousands of dollars. I asked the obvious question. "How are you guys affording this?" My dad looked up from the brochure he was reading. He had this casual expression on his face like I was asking about the weather. He said, "Do not worry about it. We saved up, but I knew my parents. I knew their financial situation. They did not have savings like that. My dad's retirement pension was modest. My mom's nursing salary was decent, but not cruise money decent. Not after helping Allison with college expenses." I felt my chest tighten. Something was very wrong here. But I did not want to start an argument right there in the living room. So I excused myself and said I needed to grab something from my old room upstairs. My childhood bedroom had been turned into a guest room/storage space years ago, but my old desk was still there covered with boxes and random items. I started looking through some old things, trying to calm down and figure out what to do next. That is when I saw it. Sitting on top of one of the boxes was an envelope. A business envelope with my company's logo in the corner. The same envelope Sandra from HR had handed me yesterday morning. The envelope that contained my bonus letter. Except this was not my copy. This envelope had my name on it, but it was addressed to my parents' house in Portland, and it had been opened. The flap was torn, the letter inside clearly read and put back. My brain took a second to catch up. Then I remembered. 6 months ago, I had updated my address with HR because I was moving to a new apartment. But before that, I had always kept my parents' address as my permanent address on file. It was easier that way since I moved around so much in Seattle. I had assumed HR would send everything to my current address, but apparently some documents still went to the address on my original employment paperwork. They had received my bonus notification letter, and they had opened it and read it, without telling me, without asking. I picked up the envelope and walked back downstairs. My hands were shaking, but not from nervousness, from anger. I walked into the living room and held up the envelope. I asked, did someone open my mail? The room went quiet. My mom's smile faded. She looked at my dad. My dad set down his brochure and cleared his throat. My mom said, "Oh, that, yes, we thought it might be important." She said it so casually, like opening someone else's federal mail was just a little oops moment. My dad added that they were just checking to make sure it was not something urgent. Like that made it okay. Like violating federal law was fine, as long as their intentions were good. I felt heat rising up my neck. I told them that this was federal mail, that you cannot just open someone else's mail. It is literally illegal. Garrett, who had been quiet up until now, laughed. He actually laughed. He said, "Come on, dude, we are family. Stop being dramatic." That is when it all clicked into place. They had opened my mail, read about my bonus, and then decided to book an expensive cruise. Without asking me. Without even telling me they had received my mail, they had just assumed I would pay for it. I looked at each of them. My mom was not meeting my eyes. My dad was getting that stubborn look he gets when he knows he is wrong, but will not admit it. Garrett still had that smirk on his face. Only Allison looked uncomfortable staring down at the carpet. I asked the question directly. "So you read about my bonus and decided to book a cruise?" Nobody answered right away. The silence was thick enough to cut. Finally, my mom spoke up. She said, "Isaac, we raised you. We sacrificed so much, is it wrong to want a little vacation?" My dad jumped in. He said they were not going to ask me directly, but when they saw the letter, they thought maybe I could help the family out. Help the family out. Like I owed them. Like my bonus was somehow family money. I told them I did not owe them anything beyond basic respect and love, which they had just violated. Garrett leaned forward, that annoying smirk still on his face. He said, "Bro, you make bank, 45 grand is nothing to you." I almost lost it right there. I told him that $45,000 was 2 years of 60-hour work weeks. It was missing holidays and birthdays and friends' weddings. It was earned, not given. And it was mine. Allison finally spoke up quietly. She said maybe they should have asked first. Garrett shot her a look and told her to stay out of it. I asked the critical question. "How much did you spend?" My dad hesitated, then said, $12,000. For all 4 of them. 2 weeks in Alaska, all inclusive. $12,000 that they did not have on a credit card they could not pay off, assuming I would cover it. I asked them directly if they had spent my money yet. My mom clarified that they had not spent my money, they used their credit card, they just thought I would help them pay it off. Like that was better. Like going into debt on my behalf without asking was somehow more acceptable. My dad tried the family card. He said I was family and family helps each other. I shot back asking if they thought to ask me first. Did they think to have a conversation? Did they think to respect my privacy or my right to make my own financial decisions? Nobody answered, because they had not. They had seen an opportunity and taken it. They had read my private mail, found out about my bonus, and made plans for my money without including me in any part of the decision. I asked them what they thought was going to happen. Did they think I would just see the cruise and be so happy for them that I would hand over $12,000? Did they think I would not find out about the mail? My mom started crying. She said they just wanted one nice family vacation before they got too old. My dad said they had worked hard their whole lives and deserved something nice. Garrett called me selfish. That word selfish coming from my 25-year-old brother who lived at home rent-free and had not held a job in over a year. I looked at him and told him that wanting to keep the money I earned was not selfish. Planning someone else's finances without their knowledge was selfish. I told them I was not paying for the cruise. My dad's face went red. He asked if this was really about the money or about me punishing them. I told him it was about respect. It was about boundaries. It was about the fact that they had committed a federal crime by opening my mail and then compounded it by making financial decisions based on stolen information. Garrett stood up and got in my face. He called me a selfish jerk who had always thought he was better than the family. I stayed calm. I told him that I had worked hard to build a career and a life, and I was sorry if that made him feel bad about his own situation, but it was not my responsibility to fund their vacation. My mom was full-on sobbing now. She said I was tearing the family apart over money. I corrected her. I told her they had torn the family apart when they violated my privacy and trust. Allison stood up and quietly said she did not know they were going to do this. She said she felt bad. I believed her. She was the only one who seemed to understand how messed up this whole situation was. I looked at my parents and told them I needed to leave. My dad said if I walked out that door I was choosing money over family. I told him that I was choosing self-respect over manipulation. Then I left. The drive back to Seattle was 3 hours of pure anger and hurt. My own parents had opened my mail. They had violated federal law. They had planned to spend $12,000 of money I had not offered them. And when confronted, they tried to make me feel guilty about it. I called Kyle on the drive home, told him everything. He was silent for a long moment, then said that was messed up on so many levels. He asked what I was going to do. I told him I did not know yet, but I knew one thing for certain. This could not happen again. By the time I got back to my apartment, I had a plan. I was not going to be angry and reactive. I was going to be smart and proactive. Monday morning, I took a personal day from work and started making changes. First stop was the post office. I filled out a change of address form for all my mail, but I did not forward it to my apartment. I rented a post office box at a UPS store near my office. From now on, all my mail would go there. Nobody would have access to it but me. Next, I called HR at work. I explained that I needed to update all my information in their system. I gave them my new P.O. box address. I also asked them to add a note to my file that no information about my employment salary or benefits should be shared with anyone under any circumstances without written authorization from me. Sandra from HR was professional about it. She did not ask why, just confirmed the changes would be made immediately. Then I called my bank, changed my mailing address, set up additional security questions, made sure that nobody could access my account information without answering those questions. I checked my credit report online to make sure nobody had tried to open any accounts in my name. Everything looked clean, but I set up fraud alerts anyway. I called a lawyer that afternoon. Just a consultation to understand my options. The lawyer explained that opening someone else's mail is a federal offense, but prosecuting family members for it is complicated and rarely successful. However, he said I could use it as documentation if things escalated. He advised me to keep records of everything, every phone call, every text message, every interaction. He also suggested I check if my parents had access to any of my accounts or personal information. That made me realize something. I went through every single account I had. Email, bank accounts, credit cards, social media, everything. Changed every password. Set up two-factor authentication everywhere. Removed my parents' phone numbers from my emergency contacts at the bank. It took hours, but when I was done, I felt like I had taken back control. Tuesday morning, my mom called. I almost did not answer, but I knew I had to face this eventually. Her voice sounded tired. She said they needed to talk. The cruise was non-refundable. They really needed my help. I told her I had already said I was not paying. There was a long silence. Then she said they would have to cancel and lose the deposit. I told her that was her decision to make, not mine. She asked if I really wanted them to lose $3,000. I pointed out that I had never asked them to book the cruise in the first place. She tried a different approach. She said I was financially stable and they were struggling. I reminded her that I had $38,000 in student loans, that I was living in an expensive city in a small apartment, that I was not rich, I just had a good job that I'd worked extremely hard for. She said family was supposed to help each other. I agreed. I said family was also supposed to respect each other. Family was not supposed to open each other's mail and make financial plans with money that did not belong to them. Later that day, my dad called. His voice was hard, angry. He said I was tearing the family apart. I told him that he had done that when he chose to violate my privacy. He said they were my parents and deserved respect. I told him respect goes both ways. He hung up on me. Garrett sent me a series of text messages, called me selfish, said I had always been stuck up, said I never cared about the family. I did not respond, there was no point. But then Allison texted me separately. She apologized, said she did not know they were going to do that, said she felt bad about the whole thing. I texted back and told her it was not her fault. She had not done anything wrong. She thanked me for understanding. The next week was silent. Nobody called. Nobody texted except Allison, who checked in once to see how I was doing. I knew what was happening. My parents were waiting for me to feel guilty and change my mind. They thought if they gave me enough time, I would cave and send them the money. But I did not feel guilty. I felt angry and hurt, but not guilty. I had not done anything wrong. I had set a boundary and I was going to stick to it. This was not about the money anymore. This was about whether I was going to let my family walk all over me or stand up for myself. I went to work every day, did my job, hung out with Kyle and other coworkers, started going to the gym more, life continued, and every day that passed without giving in felt like a small victory. 2 weeks after the confrontation, my mom called again. This time her voice was different, quieter, more defeated. She told me they had canceled the cruise. They lost $3,000 on the deposit. She said my father was very upset. I told her I was sorry they lost money, but that was their choice. She said I was being heartless. I told her I was being realistic. They had made a financial decision without consulting the person whose money they were planning to use. Actions have consequences. There was a long pause. Then she said something that surprised me. She said, "Maybe they did cross a line." Maybe? I did not let it slide. I said there was no maybe about it. They had opened federal mail that was not theirs. They had violated my privacy. They had made financial plans based on stolen information. My mom sighed a deep, tired sound. She said I was right, that they should have asked, that they should not have opened my mail. It was not exactly a full apology, but it was something. It was more than my dad had offered. I told her I appreciated her saying that. She said my father was too proud to admit he was wrong, but she thought he knew. I said I needed time. I needed to know this would not happen again. She promised it would not. Over the next few months, things slowly started to shift. I did not rush back to Portland. I did not pretend everything was fine, but I did not cut them off completely either. I used the bonus exactly how I had planned. First thing I did was pay off every single penny of my student loans, all $38,000. Gone. The feeling of making that final payment was incredible. For the first time since I was 18 years old, I did not owe money for my education. Next, I bought a car. Nothing fancy or extravagant. A 3-year-old Toyota Camry with low mileage and a full service history. It was reliable, efficient, and most importantly, it did not make weird noises when I turned left. Driving it off the lot felt like freedom. After the loans and the car, I had about $5,000 left. I put it straight into a high-yield savings account. Emergency fund. Something I had never been able to build before because every spare dollar went to debt payments. My life felt different, lighter. I was not drowning in debt anymore. I was not driving a car that might break down at any moment. I was not worried about someone reading my mail because all my mail went to a secure P.O. box that only I could access. Work continued to go well. Trenton pulled me aside one day and said the AI project was exceeding expectations. He hinted that there might be more opportunities coming my way. I felt like I was finally building the career and life I had always wanted. My relationship with my family was complicated. I talked to my mom on the phone about once a week. The conversations were careful at first surface level. How was work? How was the weather? That kind of thing. But slowly, we started talking about real things again. She told me about her patients at the hospital. I told her about projects at work. It was not the same as before, but it was something. My dad and I barely spoke. When we did, it was brief and awkward. He could not quite bring himself to apologize, and I was not going to pretend it had not happened. But the anger faded over time. I was not holding a grudge. I was just maintaining a boundary. Garrett and I did not talk at all. He was still angry that I had not bailed them out. According to Allison, he told people I was selfish and had abandoned the family. I did not bother correcting the story. People who mattered knew the truth. Allison and I actually grew closer. She started texting me more often, asking advice about school and life. She told me she respected what I had done, that it made her think about boundaries in her own life. She said she was going to move out after graduation, get her own place, be independent. I encouraged her, told her I would help if she needed advice or support, but I would not enable her to stay dependent. 6 months after the whole mess, I drove down to Portland for Thanksgiving. I almost did not go, but Allison asked me to come and I decided to give it a try. The dinner was awkward at first. Nobody mentioned the cruise. Nobody mentioned the fight. We ate turkey and talked about safe topics. But after dinner, while everyone else was watching football, my dad pulled me aside. We stood in the kitchen and for a moment neither of us said anything. Then he spoke. He said he should not have opened my mail. that it was wrong. His voice was gruff, and he would not quite look at me, but he said it. I told him thank you for saying that. We did not hug, we did not have some big emotional moment. We just nodded at each other. And somehow, that felt more real than any dramatic reconciliation would have. Things were not perfect. They probably never would be. But they were honest. My family knew now that I had boundaries, that I would not be taken advantage of, that love did not mean unlimited access to my money or my life. I learned something important through all of this. Setting boundaries is not mean or selfish. It is necessary. It is healthy. And sometimes the people who push back the hardest against your boundaries are the ones who benefited most from you not having any. I also learned that family is complicated. My parents had raised me, supported me in many ways, and I loved them. But that did not mean I owed them unlimited financial support or access to my private information. Real love includes respect. Real family respects boundaries. My life now is peaceful in a way it was not before. I do not worry about surprise phone calls asking for money. I do not stress about mail being opened or financial information being shared. I built a life based on hard work and clear boundaries, and I am not apologizing for it. Sometimes people ask me if I regret not just paying for the cruise to keep the peace. The answer is no, because it was never really about the cruise. It was about respect. It was about whether I was going to let people manipulate me or stand up for myself, and I chose to stand up. To anyone watching this who has dealt with family boundary issues, let me ask you this. Have you ever had family members cross a line with your money or privacy? How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that setting boundaries is okay. Thank you for watching, and remember, taking care of yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. I hope you find the courage to set your own boundaries, whatever they may be. Sometimes the people who love you the most are the ones who need the clearest boundaries. And sometimes saying no is the most loving thing you can do, because real family respects you, not just when it is convenient, but especially when it is hard.